Hi everyone, it's Christina. You'll notice my videos are a lot clearer. That's because I just installed Windows Movie Maker on my computer. I finally got it to work where I can make videos now. Before it wouldn't work. So, yay! Okay, having said that, for Love and Time of Cholera, I've read up to page 165. I stopped at 163, actually, is where I stopped reading. I finished the section. And the thing I want to talk about that's kind of a very controversial topic, and the reason I want to talk about is because of the way the novel uses it, and that's about love and sex. Yeah. So, let's talk about love first, because that's the easy one. Love starts off with this man named Florentino, um, and it starts off with this older couple. They're kind of in their twilight years. The doctor knows he's getting to a point where he knows that one day one of them is going, either he or his wife is going to die, because they're at that point in their lives where they just kind of they just need each other, but they don't really talk that much, and they're just in that twilight stage. Um and then he dies, and Florentino comes in and admits his love, and which he had done so in the past, 3 days after this doctor had died, and Firmina was now a widow. And Firmina immediately turns him away, but thinks about him. And probably as we enter the next section, as we enter the section where it talks about when this all began, how this all began, where this guy come from, what's the story. In a sense, she's having a flashback. Sort of. Um, with, the novel, it talks about this very playful love that Flormina and Florentino have in their younger years. This playful love involves a very secrecy, with secret love letters, secret communications, because back in this time when cholera was a bad epidemic, it was a very legitimate fear to have. Love unrequited, or having a young love, was not necessarily something that a young girl did. It was not very ladylike. Young girls back then had to be ladies, at least Fermina had to be. And in this sense, this is why it is a playful love, because they never really actually consummate on it, as it were. They don't actually do anything, they just write letters. Now, Fermina gets caught in this, and she gets expelled from school for it because it is not the ladylike way. Now, this premise probably surrounds religion, but the whole premise of love is a sin. Is something that Fermina does not understand in regards to her religion, because she is Catholic. How can you say love is a sin when love is the reason when you say you love God? That kind of bothers her a bit as to why was she expelled for that. So that was a very interesting point, I think, because love, this playful love that is used in the first part of the book, kind of reminds me of being a teenager in your high school days, when you got that crush, you got this guy you kind of like. I'm talking from a girl's perspective, or you got this girl that you like if you're a guy, and you kind of admire them from a distance, but you don't actually approach them. Whereas in this book, it is an approachable thing. They're exchanging letters constantly. They keep going at it until one day she gets caught, she goes away, and then when she sees him again, she realizes it was an illusion. It's kind of what a crush is, it's an illusion, but was it really? It was her first love, it was kind of her first exploration of what love was. But then she meets the doctor, who over time wins her over, and they get married. And then comes the part involving love becoming physical, not just an emotion. The part about sex. Now, for Florentino, he said he would save himself for Mina. However, he becomes assaulted, and he ends up having affairs with many women. I forget the number mentioned in the book, but I know it was like 200 something, which I'm like, wow, that's a lot. Ever since he had an affair with like a widow of sorts. And I think that's kind of contradictory to what Florentino says. I think I'm saying his name right. Yeah. Um, when he says Vermina's the only one and yet he goes with these other women, maybe it's because he was rejected so bluntly, um, that he was assaulted to where it kind of just impacted him, where he just lost sight of her. And even when he sees her finally, after she's married and she's pregnant, he realizes he's not good enough for her and that he won't have her now. And maybe the reason he comes back is because the obstacle that was in his way is now gone. So, I don't know. I haven't finished the book actually. But I want to talk more about the sex part. I know it's kind of a taboo topic, even today, even though sex is used to sell things. Sex is something that we sometimes use for marketing purposes. I will say that's something I've noticed sometimes. Maybe some of you have noticed that too. Um, because the book is very graphic as far as when Fermina and her new husband, the doctor, um, Ushido, I think is how you say his name. I'm sorry if I said that wrong. Um, and basically, Urbino, not Ushido. Sorry. Um, and basically, it's very graphic, but it actually didn't bother me. And years ago, it would have, because back I was never talked about. Had the talk when I was a teenager. The talk never happened. I didn't know anything about sex except for an 8th grade health lesson involving how sexual diseases are transmitted, and human bio class when we talked about those parts, the uterus and other things. And that was as far as I got as in my sex education. I don't know. I didn't know a thing. Um, in my relationship with my current boyfriend, he and I actually started talking openly about it. And I actually have learned more in these past 6 months about sex than I have in my entire lifetime. Kind of sad. But I think it's because our society, for some reason, they don't want to talk about it. I don't know why. Um, there's this whole thing about having protection, contraception, this whole debate over abortion, but that's not the point. We need to talk about what causes these pregnancies, about the actual thing of sex. And the book, it gets really graphic into it, talks about orgasms, talks about when Fermina first sees her husband naked, because that's the first naked man she's ever seen, and she kind of finds his, well, I'm going to say the word penis, kind of interesting, even though they don't actually use the word in the book. That is what it is. I mean, I think we're all adults here. We all know that's exactly what they're describing in the book. So I think that open and very simple language, where even I understood what they were talking about, wasn't uncomfortable. It's just, here it is. It's natural. It's normal. Completely normal. Let's get comfortable. Let's just get to know each other, and then they start making love all the time. So I think that comforting, where, this love is going on, even though you got this epidemic of cholera being spread everywhere, people are still making love and still being in love. I mean, despite everything, wonderful. Now, as I said, I haven't finished the book. I'm at the halfway point. I'm looking forward to see what happens next. I actually have no clue. But that was my main thing. Um, I I think this book kind of is very well done personally. I'd like to see your thoughts of what you think about the love, both the emotion and the physical. I look forward to seeing your responses.